Anti-government protests continue over there. President Trump, though, he says he's willing to meet Iran's mullahs and Iran's president, Rouhani, with no conditions. Roll tape.
The Iran deal, it was a ridiculous deal. I do believe that they will probably end up wanting to meet, and I'm ready to meet anytime they want to. And I don't do that from strength or from weakness. I think it's an appropriate thing to do. If we could work something out that's meaningful, not the waste of paper that the other deal was, I would certainly be willing to meet.
Well, joining us now is Behnam Taleblu with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. So I'll deal with the meeting in a moment, but first is this. Iran is in dire economic straits right now. We saw the demonstrations in Tehran. We understand that the demonstrations in Isfahan as well right now. That surely gives President Trump a great deal of leverage, doesn't it?
It certainly does, and thank you very much for having me. There have been protests from the regime's social base basically beginning in December 2017 and continuing throughout multiple cities throughout the country.
Is it getting worse?
It is getting worse, and there are different sections of Iranian society joining these protests. You had women's protests, you had environmental protests, truck drivers, trade unionists, and now, again, environmental protests and people who are dissatisfied with their lot in life and the direction their country is going.
Are they aimed at the mullahs, aimed at the current regime in Iran? Is that what the protesters want to change?
They are distinctly aimed at the current class in Iran, particularly the clerical class and the revolutionary oligarchs. Even though they have economic grievances, they are distinctly political grievances, and they are chastising the regime for its foreign adventures and for failing to basically put Iran first.
Now, we've seen this before. I believe it was 2009, the mass demonstrations which were eventually put down. Are these current demonstrations more serious and more likely to have some impact on the ruling regime?
I think these current demonstrations show a real crack in the facade of this regime. The 2009 demonstrations were in response to a stolen election, and the government had a real panic because those protests were mainly in Tehran. These are protests in the regime's social base, the urban and rural poor, the disaffected religious persons in Iran. These are the people the revolution was really made for. And when the revolution doesn't serve them, they may well rise up and attempt to create another. That being said, the security forces still have a monopoly on coercion, and that's why you haven't seen these cracks in the regime materialize into disaffected elite leadership.
Now, President Trump says he would be willing to meet the mullahs any time, and in response to that, President Rouhani says no meeting unless America comes back into the nuke deal. What do you make of this proposed meeting?
Well, I think it's wise for President Trump to keep the door to diplomacy open with Iran. We have two very heavy sanctions packages coming. The president is restoring the bulk of the economic penalties and then adding to them. We have August 6 and November 4 deadlines. Iran really won't take that offer seriously until 2019, when the pain of those penalties is really felt on the Iranian oil market, the Iranian currency, and the Iranian economy more generally. We know one thing from history. The Iranian government only negotiates under massive pressure, and this president, President Trump, is looking to resurrect a massive pressure campaign against Iran.
Would you speculate on the future? 2 years from now, are the mullahs still running things?
You know, it's very hard to look into a crystal ball and predict, but I can point to one thing here, that no matter how many years out from now, the divisions we see today, the division between the state and society in Iran, will one day manifest itself into a change of government. We don't know when, we don't know how, we don't know the actual spark that'll cause it, but the seeds for a new government, the seeds for change in Iran have long ago been planted.
Got it. Sir, thanks very much for joining us this morning. We do appreciate your presence. Thank you, sir.